It's great to be here in Fort Lauderdale, at the Fort Lauderdale Airport. We wanted to bring together some of the folks who are involved in the industry, both in terms of some of the airlines that service South Florida, also some of the other businesses like rental cars that are involved here. And so we're happy to do it. And when you look at the aviation industry in the state of Florida, the economic impact of all aviation activities in the state of Florida prior to the pandemic was $175 billion on an annual basis. And the industry supported more than 1.4 million jobs with an annual payroll of $60 billion. Southern Florida market was clearly one of the tops in the country. Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood accounts for 156,000 jobs, $6 billion in annual payroll and $20 billion in economic impact. Miami International, 260,000 jobs, $11 billion in annual payroll, $33 billion in economic impact. More than 8.5% of Florida's gross state product results from businesses that are in some ways dependent on aviation. And so since March, the aviation industry has operated much differently than it had. Obviously, the demand has gone down. There were a lot of restrictions in place in many parts of the country and other countries. From March through June of 2020, there were 8.8 million passengers in Florida. To put that in perspective, in the same time frame in 2019, there were over 24 million passengers in the state of Florida. So it's a huge decline. I mean, we'll ask some of these, but probably much more significant than after September 11th, because that did happen, but then people kind of started going back. This has been months long where we've had decline. But if you think about why this is important, obviously you have the pilots, you have flight attendants, baggage handlers, concession workers, rental car associates, and hundreds and thousands of jobs in between. All of those employees have been affected by what's happened with the coronavirus pandemic. And so those are folks that have good jobs and good livelihoods as a result of this industry. And when this industry thrives, it provides that type of economic security for so many people throughout the state of Florida. And again, it runs the gamut from some of the blue collar all the way to people, who are flying the fancy planes and everything in between. And those are folks that we need to focus on, and we need to have opportunities for them. So I'm glad that the folks are here. I think it's interesting when you look at what they've been able to do in response to the pandemic. Obviously, there were certain restrictions on travel. China was shut down, which it should have been, and then Europe. And so that obviously causes differences. But there was a fear of flying, I think, amongst a lot of the members of the public. There's a lot of uncertainty about what was out there in terms of the virus. The one thing I will say is, if you had asked me at the beginning of March about flying, I would have said, well, gee, you're kind of in close contact. Someone sneezes. Isn't everyone going to get infected? And the fact of the matter is, the airplanes have just not been vectors where you've seen a lot of spread of the coronavirus. That's just the reality. Part of that is because of what they do with the air filtration, what they do for cleanliness. Obviously, they do space people out. They have different mitigation measures in place. But even before that, we didn't see, even in March, it really being a big, where if you were on a plane, you had a bunch of people do that. So I think it's important, because the intuition, I think a lot of us would assume, well, maybe that wouldn't be. But the fact is, we've now been doing this for almost 6 months in terms of dealing with the pandemic. And the evidence is the evidence. And I think it's something that is safe for people to do, because people have been doing it, not at levels that we're used to, but people have been doing it throughout this whole time. And I think a track record has been developed. And so that's just something that's very, very important for people to know. And it's also important just for people to have a good sense of how Florida is progressing in terms of the coronavirus pandemic. And the fact of the matter is, if you go back 6 weeks and look to where we are now, I mean, we've had really strong, durable declines in almost every indicator. I mean, for example, the number of COVID positive patients who are hospitalized in the ICU is down 49% from the July peak. The number of COVID positive patients just hospitalized generally is down 54% from the peak. If you look at places like Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach, Broward, the number of COVID positive patients hospitalized is down 57% from the July peak. Miami-Dade, COVID positive hospitalizations down 60% from the July peak, and Palm Beach down 64% from the July peak. We're also seeing declines in the percentage of people who test who come back positive. We've introduced point-of-care diagnostic testing at Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach recently. We've had it in Miami now for several weeks. The live rate from yesterday's test for Fort Lauderdale War Memorial, symptomatic people, 4.3% positive. Palm Beach, 5% positive. And again, those were symptomatic people. If you look at Broward, the last 7 days, the percentage of tests coming back positive has ranged between 4.2 and 5.93%. That's down significantly from where Broward was at the end of June and into July. And Miami-Dade has had 7.6%, 7.7% the last 3 days. Miami was in the 20% just a month ago. And so I think you're seeing very good positive trends. And I think that we're going to continue to see that in the state of Florida. With that, I would like to be able to recognize everyone, say a few words, and then we'll have a discussion about some of the things that we're seeing with the airlines, and then what we can do to do even better as a state. So first, I'll introduce for a few words the Lieutenant Governor, Jeanette Nunez.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor. Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be here at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport with our corporate partners and those that have really been leading the way during this pandemic in the business, travel, and leisure space. As the Governor referenced, the record number of tourists that we see in our state, last year over 126 million coming to Florida. We know with the pandemic those numbers have been significantly curtailed, but we're confident that we will be able to get back to Florida, continuing to lead as a destination of choice, gateway to the Americas, cruise capital of the world. So many exciting aspects that we are eager to get back to. So again, I really want to thank you all for being here. We're eager to hear what you all are doing to adapt. We know your industry is continuously evolved and adapt with significant challenges in the past, and we're confident that you'll continue to be able to do that in the future. So thank you, Governor.
Great. We have the Florida Department of Transportation Secretary, Kevin Tebow.
Thank you, Governor. Glad to be here. Glad to be here with our partners. You know, Governor, our mission statement is really easy. It's efficiently, effectively moving people and goods. And our partners here do that with us. And since March, we've been having regularly scheduled meetings to make sure that we kind of understanding their operations, what are the impacts that they're having, and seeing how we can help. And so today you're going to hear a lot of how they're moving forward, and really it's kind of leveraging and pivoting from here. What more can we do at the state level, Governor, and what more can we do to help efficiently move people and goods? So we're glad to be here and glad to be working with all of them.
Great. We have Lester Sola, CEO and Aviation Director, Miami International Airport.
Good morning, Mr. Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and welcome. For the message that we would like to put out is that the travel journey is a safe journey, not just through the airports, but through the airplanes. It's really the airports and the airlines have taken enough measures to ensure that journey is a safe journey. And our issue now is one on educating the flying public, so they take additional measures. And that partnership between those three, the airlines, the individuals, and the airports, will ensure that travel safety. So we want to make sure that we partner with the state, our airline partners, our airport partners, Secretary of State, to ensure that that message gets out and that travel can resume.
Great. Thank you. John Benderadis, Executive VP, Chief Operating Officer, Spirit.
Thank you, Governor. Thanks for the invitation to be here today. It's great to be with some of my colleagues and have this discussion. As you know, air travel has long been the safest form of transportation, and that's really by no accident. as an airline and as an industry, we have a very strong focus on safety culture. So today, we are doing things a little bit differently. We've learned from Corona, just like in the past, you might say post-11, we learned about how to improve security. So whether that's hospital-grade disinfectants and fogging the airplane or the requirement to wear masks, all of these things, I think what's important to remember is that this is not a fundamental shift in how we address safety as an airline. We have a very robust safety framework that we use to help as these challenges come towards us. And so that's what we're doing today. It is safe to fly. I've been flying. My family's been flying. My friends are flying. And they're telling me, and our guests are telling us, that once they're aboard, they're happy with the experience and that they feel safe. And so I look forward to the conversation today. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's important. All right, we have Lindsay Magyar, manager for cabin appearance for Spirit Airlines.
Hi, good morning, Governor. Good morning, everyone. To echo Mr. Benderitis' comments, the same thing, right? So as I am in charge of overseeing the cabin appearance for the airline, I want to note that our protocols from a disinfection and safety standards have always been elevated, but are now heightened to the point that we want to assure that on every overnight, that on every opportunity we have, that the aircrafts are at their peak for cleanliness and disinfection levels, so that we have the assured safety that the aircrafts are safe not only for our guests, but for our team members and our crew members that interact with them every day as part of their daily regimen and their daily jobs. Our personnel and our team members, who I'm so proud to work with, are involved in this in every day in their aspects. So as we've seen with our team members and our guests, the importance to keep that level of cleanliness and those standards apparent is what drives us to bring forward a higher level of expectation and execution with the new technologies and protocols that we incorporate onto the airplanes.
Great. All right. Go to Mark Gale, Director, Fort Lauderdale Airport. Thanks for hosting us.
Good afternoon again, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Secretary. Again, thanks for being at Broward County's Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. To your earlier comments, this airport, like most airports in the country, serve as economic engines for the regions. We are no different, and we have enjoyed tremendous success here at this airport, particularly over the last several years with our growth. That has not come about by chance. It has come through a lot of hard work and collaboration with our partners, and my colleague, Mr. Ursola, has indicated our messaging that we would want to talk about today is we're in this together, and we're working very hard with our partners at the airlines, very hard with our concessions, with our rental car folks that are here today, and many, many others, and including the state, again, and thanks to Mr. Secretary for his assistance over the past 6 months or not. But we want to make sure that the traveling public knows that we are taking care of our facility. We instituted program after program after program to instill public confidence, and we want to be able to walk away here today with an understanding that traveling is safe, and we look forward to our patrons coming back into our wonderful airports here and all across the U.S.
Great. Andres Berry, President, JetBlue Travel Products.
Governor, thank you for having us today, and thank you for setting up the event. Look, I think from our standpoint, echoing a lot of what you've heard so far, for the 20 years that JetBlue has been around, safety has been our number one value, and it's been no different. We've had to adapt what that looks like. We do think that flying is an essential service, and we saw that all throughout, even during the peak of the pandemic and early on. There's a lot of people that have to get from point A to point B. We're moving a lot of medical professionals. We allowed them to travel for free on us to get to hotspots, and so it was on us to figure out how to do that as safely as possible. And I'll let my colleague Nishal he lives this every day, being at the airport. But there's a lot that we've done on the plane. We're the first ones to require masks. We have blocked off middle seats this entire time. And so there's a lot of things that we're doing. But it also extends beyond the flight. We also have a lot of customers who will actually book their entire trip through us. And we proactively call each one of them to figure out are the safety protocols that they've seen throughout the entire journey there. And so far, all the feedback that we get is positive. So we're comfortable that we're doing a lot of things to make people feel as safe as they can as they travel. So.
Great. All right. Nishal Nabad, General Manager for Fort Lauderdale Airport, JetBlue.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. Just to echo your comments on that there's no data really out there to show that the public is getting sick on airplanes just because of the HEPA filter that we have on board our aircraft that kind of combats that via the coronavirus. More from a JetBlue perspective, what we've done, we've launched our Safety from the Ground Up program, which it's pretty much divided into 4 pillars. So the one important thing we're looking at is to make sure our crew members are healthy before they come to work. So giving them that flexibility to if they're contracting or if they show any signs of symptoms of this virus, they're more than welcome to stay home, just to provide that flexibility to them. We're also conducting temperature checks with every crew member just prior to them starting their shift or their schedule. We're also looking at cleaner air surfaces, so disinfecting our aircraft more than we used to before. Every turn, we're making sure we're UV spraying that aircraft. In terms of the customer, requiring them to ensure that they wear their face coverings, and just prior to checking, we are screening them to make sure they didn't exhibit any symptoms before they get into the airport or onto the aircraft. And just allowing our customers flexibility. If they're not comfortable traveling now, we're giving them the option to rebook for a later time. Once they're comfortable, we'll be here to welcome them.
Great. All right, and then Helder Diaz, General Manager, Ace Rent-A-Car.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. A lot has been said here, and basically we're going to be echoing a lot of what was already stated. Working in the rental car industry with airline colleagues, we complement the airlines, and we too have implemented some strenuous cleaning activities such as electrostatic misting and different disinfecting items for every vehicle that is returned from our customers, so that everyone stays safe. The airlines themselves have seen dramatic decreases in overall flights and passengers as well as the rental car industry itself, and we're glad to see that there are some positive outlooks coming in the very near future, and can't wait for tomorrow. We're here and we're ready to go.
That's great. So maybe both Spirit and JetBlue, I think Nishal had mentioned it, but have you guys had outbreaks identified on your flight? Because we track as best we can what goes on in Florida, and obviously a lot of home outbreaks. You see different outbreaks for some social gas. I mean, you see different things pop up pretty consistently, and we just haven't seen very much in terms of the airlines. And I think most places around the country haven't really seen that either. And again, I'd mentioned I was a little surprised at that, just because it's more close quarters. But I think some of the things you guys are doing, obviously, must be working.
Yeah, that's right, Governor. In fact, we've had zero outbreaks at Spirit, and really we've had zero guests come forward to say that they've had any kind of problem on board the aircraft. It's interesting, we're all learning a lot in these days. The room we're in here, or an office building, probably changes the air every 20 minutes. Hospitals are changing their air every 10 minutes. And, more and more, we're learning, and people should know that on an airplane, that air changes every 2 to 3 minutes. So to your comments about being a confined space, it's the technology, the HEPA filters that my colleague referenced that is taking out the contaminants from the air, the fact that the air gets mixed with fresh air 50-50 and is being changed all the time. And the fact that as an industry, we're all aligned with the requirement to wear facial coverings, both at the airport and on board the aircraft. That, in combination with all the things my colleagues are taking care of on board the aircraft with the disinfectants, really makes for a super safe environment. And the team members that we have, our crew members, our flight attendants, our pilots, are very well trained, and we're there to help our guests. Our agents at the airport are there to help our guests. And again, we too offer the same flexibility. If somebody gets on and they're not comfortable for whatever reason, then we'll help them find a way to get comfortable on another flight or at another time. So there's a lot of work going on, and it's working.
JetBlue, do you guys want to?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of it's been said by Michelle and by John. It's safety and safety protocols are not new to our industry or new to our crew members, and so I think it's been the ability to first learn and understand. At first we didn't require masks, and pretty early on we realized that would help. Taking a look at our cleaning protocols, but now that we have them in place, we do have fantastic crew members who are pretty accustomed to prioritizing the safety of all of our customers, and I think we've seen it. We've similar to you. We've not only not had any confirmed outbreaks, but not even any mentions from customers who feel like they were at risk.
What about rental cars? Have you guys So I know obviously someone returns it, you got to clean it or whatever. But have you had instances in which somebody has complained about potentially being infected because of being in one of your cars?
To date, we've had zero complaints based on our strict cleaning guidelines.
Can you talk about specifically with ACE, where you're at business-wise compared to where you were before the pandemic?
Absolutely, thank you. Now, with the airlines, we're able to capture business from other sources, such as local market business, where unfortunately the airlines don't have that flexibility. We've seen about a 93% decrease in the month of April, and we've been steadily increasing back to where we are almost at a 75% capacity. And hopefully within the next 90 days, we should be back to where, based on our projections, back to year-over-year comparisons.
How, like maybe Spirit and JetBlue, how's the employment situation? I know obviously the CARES Act provided some relief, but where are you guys at in terms of your employment now compared to where you were?
Yeah, we've been very public about the need for us, at least in the short term, to be a little bit smaller airline going forward until demand returns to the industry. To that end, we were also public with some announcements to our entire group about the potential for furloughs, probably 2,500 to 2,600 furloughs at Spirit in our workforce. Fortunately, we were able to work together in the near term anyway with a lot of our organized labor groups, and we've been able to mitigate any furloughs for now for pilots and for flight attendants, and we're working together with our other groups. That being said, we do have some team members in certain departments that are being impacted. Some of those happened as late as today and yesterday. So I'd say that, we're right now able to avoid about 95%. But again, if things continue the way they are, that's going to be difficult to maintain in the long term. So we're looking forward to partnering together with everybody who's here today and partnering with you and with the state. And as we see the numbers come down in the state, to get that message out, because clearly we can tell by certain markets there is some pent-up demand for leisure travel. And as my colleague mentioned, in places like Las Vegas and Cancun, where there are fewer restrictions, people are going there because they want to travel. And so, but we're waiting for that return. This is a shoulder period for the airline coming into September and October, so demand is down right now. But we're hoping to hang on to as many employees as we can.
So, as demand increases and people are more comfortable, that results in jobs being saved basically in all your businesses.
Yeah, it absolutely would. I mean, it's no secret the way that we've avoided furloughs is many of our wonderful team members have basically taken voluntary leaves at reduced pay to help the situation. So it's a true partnership with all of the team members at Spirit, who I'm extremely thankful to. But they're taking pay cuts in effect, and that impacts families as well. And like I said, some have lost their jobs. And so when demand comes back, we'll be happy to bring those people back to work and continue to grow. Spirit is a growth story.
JetBlue?
Yeah, it's a similar situation. I mean, I think our second quarter earnings results, we reported like about 90% loss in revenue, and it's a dire situation. You compared it to September 11th. This is orders of magnitude worse in terms of the decline as well as the length. And the Payroll Support Act has helped a lot throughout the summer, and that's helped us retain a lot of our crew members. But with that expiring in September, demand is down. We're flying a lot less. We've cut just about every cost that there is to cut. And so we're looking at what happens next. JetBlue is very proud of in our 20-year history. We've never furloughed any crew members, and so we're pulling every lever that we can to not get there, to make sure that we continue that. But it's hard. The current revenue situation is untenable, and it's a lot of important jobs. And if you think also about the recovery on the other side, these crew members need to stay in constant training. We've reopened our training center in Orlando, and we're training more crew members now than we ever have at any point in time, and we're doing so safely. But it's important that we maintain some momentum, and so we're working through. We've had, similar to Spirit, a lot of crew members who've volunteered and said, okay, we'll take some unpaid time off for some period of time, or who have volunteered to step away, and that will help with preventing or reducing any furloughs. But at some point, we need demand to come back to have a sustainable business.
So the September 11th, I mean, I know the air travel was shut down for a short period. It was like maybe a week or something like that. And then it was maybe a little bit slow. Although I think I mean I remember I was a young guy, but I was thinking to myself, it's never going to be safer right after that because everyone was so focused on it. I think, but people seem like, you know, there was probably a slow period, but it doesn't seem like it was like a 6-month deal. Like, I mean, certainly you guys wouldn't have seen this type of loss, even for that. So it's a lot to have to deal with, and you know, you have so many people's livelihoods and jobs on the line. So I know you guys have had to do different things. I know you know, with what the federal government did, I think was a lifeline to a lot of people as well. So Mark, I mean, this is a great airport. I always enjoyed flying in and out of it. I just think it's convenient and had a lot of good routes in terms of the direct flights. I know JetBlue was very good at doing a lot of good flights in particular. So can you just describe kind of the economic impact that this airport has for the region, how many jobs are connected, what you've had to do now in this down period, and you know, what's the way forward?
The airport has long been recognized as one of the strongest, if not the strongest, economic engine for Broward County, employing approximately 20,000 people here. It's somewhat of a little city, as most airports are, but the indirect aspects of that ripples far, far out. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are created from the livelihood of this particular airport. Strong connection to our sister agency, Port Everglades, with the cruise ship industry and what happens on the shipping side of the house. Our partners, and we call our partners our airlines and our concessions, and the way that this airport operates, we like to keep our costs extremely low. The lower we are, the better it is for our airlines, how attractive we are as an airport. So when the pandemic hit and traffic dropped off, we collaborated with our airlines. We shrunk our footprint. We reduced our operating expenditures. We did the things that were necessary in order to tighten the belt, if you will. The CARES Act was a huge assistance to us. It helps keep our employees paid, helps pay debt service going forward. We need to see that traveling public start to come back, because this is not something that can be sustained long term. We have bills to pay. And we have infrastructure that we still want to build for this region, you know, going forward. We've instituted programs like every other airport, I think, in the country. Ours has a little acronym with it. Our call sign is FLL. We added a Y onto the end of that for fly, so it's fly better, fly safer, fly smarter, fly better. But the things that we do for the traveling public to make sure that they understand our efforts of maintaining a clean facility, sanitizing, ultraviolet cleaning of surfaces, hand sanitizer, social distancing, everything that's necessary with our partners to instill that confidence. But we really need to see some markets start to come back into play. We talked a little bit earlier about international markets, doors opening up to other countries. About 25% of our business is international. So we want to see that come back. Domestic rebounds very strongly. I think we're very resilient as an airport. There's an intrinsic value, we believe, to this airport in this region: sun, sand, beaches, the hospitality and tourism. When people get comfortable flying, we think that we're going to do really well going forward, and that's what we're working hard on right now.
So your international destinations, how many of them have travel restrictions?
Majority of them. We're about 85% down on international travel right now. On a normal international period, we have over 100 daily departures. We're running about 12, 15, 20 on good days right now. So there's a lot of restrictions that are still out there. We're hoping to see those restrictions lift. We communicate with our airline partners that fly there, both JetBlue, Spirit, and others. They're ready to go as soon as those restrictions come down, and we're ready.
And where are some of the places where you would then go if the restrictions were lifted?
Lots of the restrictions still exist in Latin and South America. We did have restrictions going up into Canada for a while. Certainly we talked about Europe. So they are spread out far and wide. We've seen restrictions come on and off, some restrictions to the Bahamas, for example. So it is out there, but when you take out 85% of that international business, it has a distinct impact on our operating model each and every day. We're hopeful that as we start to beat the virus back, those doors are going to open up and our partner airlines are going to start flying there on a regular basis again. We have 2 brand new federal inspection services areas with our U.S. Customs and Border Protection people here, one that sits right underneath of this floor, actually, and one over in Terminal 4. We want to see them get back into full-time business again.
Great. And then Lester, with Miami, so there are restrictions. I know the federal government restricted travel from Brazil, and I know that some of the other have. Now, when did those start? Because March and April, I thought that there was still some traffic coming. So can you just talk about your international footprint, how that's evolved, and where you're at right now?
So absolutely, Governor. For us, international is basically half of our business. So we're almost split even between domestic travel and international travel. And the majority of our travel, the international travel, is into the basically South America, Central America, and the Caribbean. Some European markets. So that has taken a significant portion of our market share, if you will. And until those countries are able to open up, we're gonna be suffering just the same 85% reduction. I will tell you, however, that the demand is there. We get constant inquiries from people wanting to travel to Miami or to the South Florida area. They feel comfortable coming here. And even early on during the virus, we were taking significant measures already at the airport and as a state and as a county, that the demand was still there. People who have homes here, people who have businesses here from the South American market were still willing to come to the States because they felt comfortable and they knew our health system and the ability to provide. So our issue for us is having some type of a communication with, again, the expectation of the flying public, communications with those countries, which we're engaged in with the airlines as well too, so that we can convince them that the journey of that travel, that flight, is in fact going to be a safe one.
So I think demand, obviously, the travel restrictions that are existing around, and I've said publicly that, and I supported the restrictions from Europe when they happened, but I think that served its purpose. I don't know that those restrictions need to be in place anymore. And then the same thing with Brazil. I mean, I think that served its purpose. And we're probably in a different spot than we were when that was put in. So you have those two things. Is there anything else that would be helpful, either from a government perspective, federal government perspective, state, community perspective?
So I think,
Sorry.
for us, I mean, we've seen a decline in customer with the quarantines that have been put in place, specifically the Northeast region, so New York, the New Jersey area. So I think if those are lifted, we will see an uptick in demand for us.
The only thing that I would add is the leveraging of the messaging. It appears that we are a resilient industry. We've gone through difficult times before. Sometimes we've had to have gone through those. We're in a position where we must work together at the local, the state level, at the federal government level to deliver a message of what is in fact a safe journey and what's it going to take to be a safe journey. And we're in a partnership taking all those measures. Now the issue is making sure that people understand that being in an airplane, going through an airport, and your travel destination is in fact a safe exercise, and you should feel comfortable doing so as long as you take, as a traveling public, some responsibility of your behavior.
I know you guys have talked about your experience of whether there have been even complaints of outbreaks. Are there any other airlines that have had any significant problems in terms of coronavirus outbreaks on flights? Because I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any either. Certainly none that have been made public at all. I have, as you might imagine, a lot of colleagues at other airlines, and we do chat, especially in the area of safety. While we're competitors in the same industry, we don't compete when it comes to safety or guest safety, and so we do share information, and I'm not aware of any.
I'm not aware of any either.
Great. Anyone else have any other comments about what's going on? I mean, I understand how difficult it's been, because obviously you have government doing different things in different parts of the world and the country, but then you also just have consumer sentiment. There's obviously been a lot of fear and anxiety over the past many months, and it's not an easy thing. And so thank you guys for working hard, because we have so many people whose livelihoods and jobs depend on the industry and on this on this being successful, and particularly here in South Florida. I mean, you're talking about a huge amount of people, and this is their livelihood. This is how they put food on the table. This is how they support their families. So those are folks that have been working hard, and all these things that are external to your industry that have affected it, that's not any of their fault. And so we want to do what we can to have it thrive again, because I think it's been a good engine for the state of Florida for a long time, and I think it will be. I think it will be again. So thank you for your attention to the safety of your guests. I mean, we were talking before we came out. There's because I was down at the theme parks the other day in Orlando, and they were talking about there's a lot of interest on kind of driving to go, and the people drive as far as they're saying 7-8 hours, no problem. But if you pack family into a car and drive compared to flying in terms of just the safetiness, both with coronavirus and in general, the airplane is statistically definitely a safer bet. But I think it's just people's views and kind of how they're seeing this stuff. So I think it's important that if we now have a track record and evidence about how this stuff works on the airplanes, the different types of measures that you've taken, people should know that, because I think that's important. And at the end of the day, you didn't have to be told to do that by government or forced to do it. You did it because you understand people want a safe journey. I mean, that's not only the right thing to do; it's the smart business decision to make. And I think that it's paid off in terms of the results you've had with the safety. And I think as more people know and are more comfortable, I think it'll pay off in